Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Peter y no hablo español. Lo siento. So, folks, it's 2030. Can you believe it? I think the really good news is that I don't seem to have aged since 2019. The good news is that we've done it. We did it together. In 2019, it was barely unimaginable that we could ever dream that these huge challenges, these huge problems that we faced as a world, as a society, within our communities, could be resolved. Now, I started my life as a revolutionary. Age often kind of snubs out the revolutionary elements of youth. And so, instead of creating banners, I now try and create solutions. I sometimes wonder whether my activism was more effective than my policy making, particularly given some of the people that I have to hang around with. That's my former Prime Minister, David Cameron, who brought you and me Brexit. So, folks, it's 2030. Congratulations. As you might imagine, it's a time to celebrate. Those 17 goals were very, very ambitious. Back in 2019, we were nowhere close. Now, an awful lot has changed over those preceding 11 years that got us here. And it's right that the world is celebrating. Like some people, I'm still learning to floss. Still haven't cracked that one. But the world, in all corners of the globe, are beginning to recognize the achievement that we have collectively done together. Now, back in 2019, our progress was pretty damn poor. You can see from this chart here where we need to be, and actually those spikes in the middle are far too short. They need to reach out towards those SDGs, and particularly in areas of decarbonisation, cleaning our oceans, gender equality. We are falling way behind where we should be. Now, lots of things have happened in the preceding 11 years, but Britain is still trying to leave the European Union. What can I say? There's been another 12-month extension. So, what can we learn? What were the key moments that really got us here? Well, first of all, we've already heard that the climate strikes that happened in our schools began a process of citizen activism. This wasn't just a party for the kids, though. Soon the teachers joined in, soon the workers joined in. And by 2030, it was anticipated that 70% of the world's entire population had participated in these strikes. If you think about all of the achievements over human history, whether it's votes for women, whether it's the end of apartheid, this all came about through citizen activism. And the achievement of the SDGs was also in a similar vein. I'm also delighted to tell you that young Greta is the youngest Secretary General of the United Nations in history. I'm also going to share with you that some of the actions that were dreamt up and developed in NESI 2019 were the seeds, the catalysts, the origins of our success. One of the small things that we can all do is take energy back into community hands. Now, at the start of the 2000s, at the start of the millennia, we began to see communities coming together, raising their own capital, raising their own investment, and decarbonising their own communities, decentralising the provision of energy. We've seen civic buildings, schools, museums, community centres, churches, town halls covered in photovoltaics, not driven by the big energy companies, not even driven by national government, but people like you, clubbing together, using the small savings you have, organising energy cooperatives to decarbonise our energy, but not just to decarbonise our energy, to shift power back to local communities. We are the ones that actually led the most rapid decarbonisation through decarbonising and introducing renewable energy within our own communities. We also had a trick up our sleeves. We decided to lock up the corrupt leaders of this world who had led us down a path of terrible populism and right-wing politics. Now, I'm not just saying it's just Donald Trump. It could be Vladimir Putin too, but I was too scared to put him up on the screen. Now, for those of you that aren't massively supportive of jails, the thing to remember here is in the 2020s, we also rethought our whole approach to prisons. Prisons became a place for rehabilitation for even the likes of Donald Trump. Prisons became a place for learning, lifelong learning, education, culture, and art. And actually, these became systems for re-engineering societal norms and values rather than places to simply punish people. One of the major issues we still had to tackle during the 2020s was the extraordinary inequality that had been grown through the preceding decades of neoliberal economics. In 2019, it's hard to believe that these seven men owned as much wealth as half of the world's population. So we had to work out a system of repatriating that wealth. In 2023, there was a global convention on wealth tax. We abolished all tax havens, and we agreed that however wealthy, wherever you may exist, everyone would have to pay a fair level of tax. Seems simple, huh? Well, these people don't give up their tax and their money too easily. What we saw was the creation of a super tax and a global agreement driven by the United Nations, which saw the repatriation of the $12 trillion that was required to start healing our planet. It was bizarre. We didn't need necessarily new technology, but we did need vast sums of money to reforest those areas that had become desert. It took us 10 years to repopulate our oceans with the life that we had previously stripped from it. We didn't necessarily need huge technological advancements in carbon capture. What we realized was that the oceans and the forests could do this themselves, just if we gave them a fighting chance. And so reseeding the oceans, reseeding the forests became the defining aspect of the 2020s. And life, biodiversity, returned back to our planet. Plastics. Now, even today we're drinking out of plastic bottles. By 2025, single-use plastics have been banned. In fact, the job now is to take plastics out of our environment. We found all sorts of ways to do this, but the most effective way was thinking about how we could potentially take this plastic and repurpose it to solve other social problems. So we see housing, we see homes, we see affordable homes for people that don't currently have them being made out of repatriated plastics that would otherwise still be languishing in our oceans and in our soil. The architects' communities all around the world joined in this ambition, and we saw over 10 million new homes built purely from the plastics taken from our oceans. And of course, gender diversity. You know, men don't like to give up power too easily, do they? No. So we had to find a way, and we insisted it was our democratic responsibility to ensure that our parliaments reflected the communities that they were there to represent. We saw women, newly empowered women, take power, take control, but not in the sort of way that Theresa May or Margaret Thatcher did. We saw them take power and control with humanity in their hearts. We saw diversity represented across our new political institutions and our global corporations, and we found a way through. The end of trick-down economics, the notion that as long as we generate economic growth, everyone will benefit, is now recognized as a myth, a charade. We know that we cannot keep people in servitude while some people accumulate vast, vast sums of wealth. And so what we started to do is we started to force corporations to change their structures. In 2030, it is no longer acceptable for any business to exist for profit primarily. All businesses now have to put people and planet as their primary purpose. And that was well and long overdue. Those companies that didn't want to change, they lost their market share. Customers left them. Workers left them. New organizations, new cooperatives, B corporations, social enterprises, mutual organizations took hold, all with a primary purpose to save the planet and to save humanity. Capitalism has been completely reinvented. In fact, we don't even call it capitalism anymore. We call it communitarianism, because we trade and we transact between communities and between countries, but we do so with a focus on creating societal value, not personal financial gain. The B Corps, the cooperatives, the social enterprises, these are now the dominant organizations in our economy. And we see young people start them up at an alarming pace. We look back and think, what were we doing? Allowing our entire commerce and business industry to operate purely for profit. Those that did exist, well, it was a tough job getting tax out of them, but we did it. We took the tax, we took the trillions of dollars, and we redistributed it across the world. And you know what happens when you redistribute wealth and power across the world? Conflict diminishes. Intercultural conflict diminishes. Interfaith conflict diminishes. What we recognize is that we are all working together across this world for a common future, a shared future. And it's through the tackling of these deficits in our current structures that we really, really achieve the SDGs. So this is our future, folks. Hello wind, hello oceans, hello forests, hello each other. And do you know, the magic that you're not aware of is that the seeds of this revolution happened here over the next 3 days in Malaga in 2019, when I looked younger and slimmer, and so did you all. I'd like to say thank you, because it's your work over the next 3 days that has led us to achieve the solutions that we so desperately need. Each and every one of you in this room, whether you're young or whether you're old, has an opportunity to contribute, to think and dream big, to imagine the world that we want and the world that we can achieve. So when you go into workshops and sessions over the next 3 days, go in with an open mind. Go in with a belief that change is possible. Do not think that anything is beyond the realms of what we can do together here over the next 3 days. Now, the answer, of course, is that love finally wins. And in 2019, it felt like hate was trumping love. But no, I'm here to tell you in 2030 that we achieved that. And every one of us can make a contribution. This is Melanie. Melanie, where are you? Are you in the audience? Melanie, your advocacy for veganism, for sustainable lifestyle living, became a pandemic. More than 50% of the world's population now consume a vegan diet. That has led to thousands and thousands of tons of chemicals being taken out of our soil. That has allowed us to reforest areas that were used for grazing. Your work that you didn't necessarily realize in 2019 was as catalytic as you wanted it and dreamt it to be. You made a huge difference. And of course, here we have another incredible hero, leading women's empowerment, leading the We All campaign. We have a huge number of heroes in the audience today, and 1 of you, 2 of you, 20 of you, 100 of you will be able to achieve the incredible achievements that this person, Lisa House Stewart, achieved through her work in the preceding decade. I guess you're here. And Juan Del Rio, Your thinking. You didn't know that we even knew each other, but in 2030 we became good friends. Your design thinking helped us to imagine new structures for political and democratic engagement. You transformed the way we thought about the world. Your work was invaluable and got us to where we needed to be. So to each and every one of you, I've got slides of every single one of you, but I don't have time. My time is up. You made the change that we needed to see. And it's my privilege and my pleasure to reflect on the journey of the last 11 years. Thank you.